We're live.
Thank you, Cynthia. Business arising from the closed session tonight. Motion moved by Councillor Rowland and seconded by Councillor McCreary. That staff and Township Legal Counsel be requested to provide a report for the consideration of council in open session at an upcoming meeting with respect to an interim control bylaw and a pause to conduct a study on land use policies and a zoning framework to govern the establishment and or expansion to aggregate extraction and processing operations. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Councillor Rowland's camera's not on. It's on. Councillor Rowland's camera's not on.
The camera's not on, Councillor Rowland. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Good evening and welcome to the May 16th regular council meeting. Members of the public may watch and participate in this open meeting using any of the following methods. Attend the Township office located at 2958 Greenfield Road, Dumfries Room. Watch the live stream by accessing the meeting to the Township's YouTube page. You cannot directly participate in the meeting via the live stream, as this is for viewing only, or attend electronically to observe the meeting or to speak to an item on the agenda. To attend electronically, members of the public must register with the Clerk's Division at clerk.northdumfries.ca before 6 p.m. on Sunday, May 15th. A Zoom link will be provided to those who register before the registration deadline. And finally, you can submit written comments to the clerk at northdumfries.ca. That will be provided to the mayor and council prior to the meeting and will form part of the public record. Can I have approval of the agenda, please?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gillespie, that council adopt the May 16, 2022 regular council agenda as presented with the following addendum. Add correspondence received for item 13.5, report number FD07-2022, update and discussion, draft fireworks bylaw.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I would now like to do the indigenous acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the land, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Mucho people. And we acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people of Canada. I'd like to pause for a moment while we reflect on what has happened in our past, how we're trying to learn so that we can move forward together. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. At this time, we're going to adjourn and meet as the Dog Designation Appeal Committee. And this will be in closed session.
Nope, this is open session.
Yes. And so can I have the motion, please? Councilor McCreary.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gillespie, that council adjourned to sit as Dog Designation Appeal Committee at 7:03 p.m.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So now we're going to move to
Yes, we've got
Animal Control Officer presentation.
Yep.
We have a presentation from the Animal Control Officer, please. Andrea and Janice. Oh, they're on the student.
Hi. All right. So, to start off, I will be looking at some of my notes and the case, which you should have in front of you as well. And so on Friday, April 8th, we received a complaint that a dog had attacked another dog. Pictures were taken and sent with it. At that time, we got the witness statement from the person whose dog was attacked. And we looked over the case, went to the person's place, the accused, and I got witness statements from the people who had been walking the dog at the time, which was the dog owner's parents. The dog owner is Nicole, and her parents are Beta and Walter. So Beta and Walter were walking the dog, and as they were walking, the man, Rick, had his dog with a bike, and he had turned the corner behind them. Their dog got loose, ran back, and attacked his dog, and causing some injuries to which he had to go to the vet to get taken care of. And as I talked to them, I realized that due to the fact that they could not control the animal by themselves, we decided that because they were walking 3 dogs at the time, 2 or 3 dogs, 2 big dogs, 1 little dog, that it would be best if that dog who had attacked would be muzzled while they were walking it off property. And we decided for them to walk that dog by itself, not with the other dogs. That way we can make sure that they had control of that dog at all times.
Thank you, Andrea. Councilors, any questions? Seeing none at this time, I believe Nicole, you're next. If you'd like to stand at the podium, please.
Sorry, I just had a quick question about this as well. According to the bylaw, this was supposed to be held within 30 days. We're past that 30 days.
No, but it was the date that the appeal was received at the township office. So
Yeah,
the date that
which was the 12th, and we're at the 16th.
we received it,
I have a copy of it.
we received it on April 19th.
Um,
So we are within
I
30
dropped
days.
it off the 12th.
It was received by staff on the 19th, and it was logged as being received on the 19th.
Okay, so,
So we are within that 30 days.
okay. So if
Yeah,
I
it was-
drop it off, like I'm held to that 5 business days where I have to drop it off. So I'm just surprised that.
Yeah, and it was dropped off within that 5 business days because it was over the Easter weekend.
Yeah, so you guys have, I guess, until you receive it? Okay, I just wanted to
Yep.
clarify that. I was just confused about that. Okay, so I have no issue with the designation other than 2 factors, just the having to walk her by herself, and then also the muzzle recommendation that the bylaw officer made. So she did recommend I put that on. The North Dumfries bylaw actually states that a muzzle has to allow the dog to be able to drink and eat, which this does not allow. So what I'm asking for today, and this does inhibit biting as well. If there is, if she pulls on this, it does close her mouth. This is a halty. It's also designed specifically for controlling the dog, which the muzzle does not. Like if she gets off leash, this isn't gonna stay on her head, you know what I mean? If she starts shaking and stuff, it's just gonna come off. So I understand like this is meant to inhibit the biting and stuff, but it contravenes what the bylaw does say. She's not able to drink out of that, like it is an issue, especially on hot days.
Can I see them both so I can hold
Yeah,
them up to
absolutely.
the Humane Society, please?
And then this is also a harness that I bought that has a handle on it.
Nicole, can you see this? I mean,
Andrea.
Andrea, can you see this? And you can.
Yep, that's the basket muzzle, so that one is definitely allowed.
And it does allow the dog to still lick water and such?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, because what the one she's requesting is this one here.
I would
one
say
is
the
not
basket doesn't allow her to drink. Like,
Pardon me, Andrea?
That one there is not allowed because if the leash is even loosened a little bit, it does allow the dog to still bite. So let's say you lose control of the leash, then the dog is ineffective.
Okay, thank you. Here you go, Nicole. Thank you. Carry on, please.
and then we also did purchase a harness with a handle on it. In the bylaw 1.15, it does say muzzle means a device designed to fit over the mouth of the dog to prevent the dog from biting while allowing the dog to pant, eat, and drink. So I would argue, I mean, that's what the bylaw says, right? I do think like this is I do understand like if the leash is loose, so you do clip it here and it does like hold the dog's mouth shut. So that's, I don't know how else to explain that, but so those are basically like just, and the walking the two dogs together is also a bit of an issue. I think it does say in bylaw here as well that according to like the dog's breed and stuff like that, you have to treat it accordingly. Catahoula's are very active dogs. So instead of being able to take my two dogs out for an hour walk together, I now have to split it up into, I have to take one dog for a half-hour walk and the other dog for a half-hour walk. I work in the trade, so I'm like up at 4 in the morning. Sometimes I'm walking them as late as midnight. We also live in a very rural area. Like I can walk 2 minutes and have farm country on either side of me. I don't have to walk the dogs in the village. I understand like if that's a concern and stuff like that. Like it's not a dense enough area where, you know, I have no other options. And now I'm actually kind of forced to walk her in the village because I can't just load the dogs up in the car and take them to a trail. So I'm not allowed to bring them anywhere together. So I can't go to any trails. I can't go to the beach. I can't go camping. Like, I don't know if I feel obviously really bad for what happened and stuff like that. But I don't know if like it was a severe enough attack where the dogs can't like basically can't do anything. It has to be muzzled, can't go anywhere really. Like I'm kind of stuck every day. Like it's a hoop I have to jump through, you know? And like we've been neighbors for years. We've seen each other countless times. Like if you consider 3 walks a day over 4 years, we've encountered you and your dog, or sorry, Rick and his dog on their bike countless times before. Never had an issue. When River was 2, she was attacked by a German Shepherd held by a guy on a bicycle. So she is not the biggest fan of bicycles. I do have a picture of like a wound that's like a scar, but it was basically like a toonie size on her back. It was really traumatic for her and stuff like that. So she does not like bicycles, but I have been taking her on the Paris Rail Trail and stuff like that too, which does get a lot of bicycle traffic. Like she's really good about it all. So.
CEO McNally, for clarification, the bylaw is only for North Dumfries Township, correct?
Correct, Madam Mayor. The bylaw has been adopted by council, is specific to North Dumfries.
So that won't affect the other trails outside of North Dumfries, neither will it affect a lot of campsites or whatever.
The bylaw, by the ownership of the dog, has expectations as how the dog, which is to be licensed in North Dumfries, how the conduct of the dog is to be regulated.
Thank you.
And then I would also say that the walking the dogs together actually isn't in the bylaw. That's just a recommendation made by the bylaw officer. So I'm not sure if, you know, that's something that we can discuss or anything like that. Like, I understand her point of the control over the dog being an issue. That's why I thought the hull teeth, which is specifically designed for difficult to control dogs, plus the harness, I feel like that's a lot better than just the muzzle. And then I also have a concern too, where one of Rick's emails here, he mentions one of the neighbors said that she was attacked by my dog. That didn't happen, or at least it wasn't my dog, which makes me also concerned that, okay, there's an aggressive dog in the neighborhood. If there's a muzzle on my dog, she can't protect me and she can't protect herself. We also live in an area with a lot of coyotes. And like I'm saying, like I'm walking at 3 in the morning and stuff like that. And like we have seen them and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're kind of sitting ducks if she's muzzled. At least the one way, like if anything happens, I do have like her to kind of protect me or herself. Yeah, and like I don't know what neighbor it is. Like I have no idea what that event was or whatever, where he said one of the neighbor's dogs was attacked. We also had a Facebook group that he posted in. And another neighbor commented that his dog was attacked last year by another dog, not my dog, but a different dog. So, I mean, we have probably like each household has at least one dog. A lot of them are big. It's a rural area. So, I mean, like dogs do get loose. I think in the last 2 weeks, luckily it was 2 friendly dogs, but one of the neighbors posted, hey, like neighbors, somebody found a dog wandering the streets. So, I mean, like dogs get loose all the time. It's something that happens, unfortunately. And then Rick also said in one of the emails that he's afraid for small children. What he omitted in his statement was my parents were walking with 2 small children. So I'm not sure why he would feel like small children are at risk. And then he also says he's in fears for his own safety. As you can see, these are 2 photos of him videotaping me and following me around the neighborhood. It's 24 seconds in of a 2-minute long video that I'm sure he still has on his phone of him pulling up to me and my dogs that he's so afraid of, rolling down the window and initiating a confrontation. And my dogs were amazing. They both sat down, no barks or anything. I'm sure if they were misbehaving, you guys would have gotten the video. But it was completely out of hand. Like, that confrontation shouldn't have happened. I understand you needed to take 2 pictures or whatever, but you didn't need to, pull up next to me, start a confrontation, start yelling at me. Like, that was totally inappropriate. So I just wanted to say that about that incident. I was following the designation, so there was no fine issued or anything like that. The designation does say until this hearing is held, the designation doesn't take effect. And it even says in the paperwork here, I mean, I can read it out, but I don't think I need to. But it does say that once this all expires, that whatever you guys decide, that's when everything takes effect. So I was well within my rights to be walking both of them. And I thought I had an appropriate muzzle, which I realized after bylaw educated me that that wasn't quite what this meant. So, and yeah, that's all I'm after, just to be able to walk my dogs together and just to change the muzzle, just to something that she's able to eat and, like, drink water, and that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Rick Deacon.
Thanks, Mayor, thanks, council. I'll correct a few inaccuracies there. I did not yell at Nicole and her dog. I was driving out of the village on the corner of Victoria and Queen or King, and I saw the 2 dogs being walked. It's only supposed to be 1. That's the ruling. So I saw 2 dogs. I said to Nicole, and I did not yell. I said, Nicole, or I didn't know your name, Nicole. I said, you know what's right. I know what's right, and my camera now knows what's right. I wasn't following her around. I was driving out with one of my daughters, and I said, I can't believe it. A few days after she was told not to do that, she was walking with both dogs. So yes, I stuck my camera on, and I pulled up beside her and I said, this is all wrong. You're only supposed to walk with 1 dog. So I want to correct that. As far as the village having a dog in every house, is absolutely not true. Both sides of me, no dogs. The next house, no dogs. It's not. A lot of that exaggerating going on. On that evening, I was, as I've done a million times in my life, taking my dog for a walk. He was on leash, I was on my bike. I do it in Shades Mills all the time. I do it to the village all the time. And suddenly I found myself thrown off my bike, flying through the air. I don't know why I wasn't hurt, but my dog was then absolutely attacked. I was traumatized. My dog was traumatized. He had 6 abrasions and puncture wounds to his body. I think I sent the pictures in, and he was seriously traumatized. It probably was only 3 or 4 minutes, but it seemed like 20 minutes. It was not pleasant. I called my wife. I was shaking. I called my wife. I said, I'm up on Branching Road. Come and pick us up. And she did. I went home. My dog, he would not go out of the house the next day. He would not go out of the driveway for the next couple of days. And I felt very, very concerned about walking through the few streets we have. A few streets. I wanted to be able to walk my dog. Now I go, can I go there? Can I go there safely? I'm not out to get anybody, but I do want the area to be safe. Regarding it being a danger to the dogs, if the dog is thrown off because of a bicycle, that's unfortunate, but the owner has to be able to be responsible for the behavior of that dog at all times. What if there were 4 or 5 little kids on tricycles making a lot of noise? Maybe that's going to throw the dog off. Maybe it is. That's not an excuse. The owner must be responsible for the dogs at all times. Nicole does not spend a lot of time, I don't believe, walking the dogs. Her parents walk the dogs. They were not able to control those dogs. Her father was not able to do anything. He held the little white dog and stood frozen and disappeared. Her mother could do nothing. I am doing everything I can to get this dog off of my dog. I couldn't do it. It wouldn't. I wasn't going to bend down and grab it. Ultimately, I was kicking it. It got off. It went away. Stood over there, and I got my dog. and off we went, but you have to be able to control the dogs, 1 dog or 3 dogs. And I don't feel that your parents can do this. I don't think that they can control a dog that is seemingly so upset, so out of control. You know, you have to be able to do it. And I don't think it's right that 2 people, your parents, be sort of have this set upon them to take care of your dog that they can't control. It's not right for the village. It's not right for them. I don't know what else to say. I'm not out to get anybody, but I want things to be safe, and I want things to be pleasant. In fact, when I spoke to you, Nicole, I said, and I spoke to your brother first, and you didn't get in touch with me. After a whole week, you didn't get in touch with me. After all of this went on, nothing came of it. And then when I came up to you that day, you said, oh yes, I was going to get in touch with you about your veterinary bills. I said, well, you haven't. You never did. There's still no follow-up. I don't, at least you say I'm sorry. That never happened. Never happened. So I don't like that. I'm willing to put it all behind. In fact, I said that to your brother on your behalf. I said, it's a small little village. I'd like this to be put away, but it wasn't, because then I see you with the dog the next 2 days or 3 days later. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe you couldn't follow that rule. So that's why we're here. That's why we're here tonight. So I would like the village to be safe. I'm not an animal expert. I don't know what the dog would do next, but I do think you should follow the rules. And if you can't walk the dog, it is a responsibility that take your dog to a place that you can walk it. And don't immediately abuse the ruling. Decide that, oh, it's okay if I walk 2 dogs, even though I just told 1 dog. Oh, it's not right. So I'm going to leave it at that. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maria, did you want to speak? Did I pronounce it right? Mariah? Oh, okay. Sorry, Mariah.
So I was walking with my father who lives in the village, and we were walking past and we saw this whole thing kind of just from diagonally across the road. And the only thing I really wanted to say about this, I don't know anything about what happened after, don't know about the rulings, didn't read the bylaws. But what I wanted to say is what concerned me is that there was nothing that even provoked it from what I could see. Didn't know the history, but as far as I could see, the dog just charged, and it was aggressive. Like, I mean, I've seen dogs snap at each other and like that. This was not that from my perspective. He really held on and he kept going after the neck and he held on. And Mr. Deacon was kicking the dog, and the dog had no reaction to that. And that was also the part that concerned me, is the lady was like yelling and waving her arms and trying to call the dog back, and the dog had no reaction. Mr. Deacon got like some solid kicks in, and it didn't let go. It held on, clamped on. And when we were walking, I mean, there were so many children in the yards, and I couldn't see what provoked it. It really concerned me that it was just such a vicious, aggressive attack, unprovoked and like sustained. And I don't know, it did not, it was very above and beyond anything else I've ever seen with dogs before. We didn't have an animal, we weren't involved with this, but it really concerned me, and I thought I needed to say something and make sure that this was being taken as seriously as possible. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mariah. We will be dealing with this in closed session, which will come at the end of the evening. So you can stay for the whole event and wait till after close, or you can leave and we will notify you of the results. Wait, did you have something to say?
Can I add one little thing?
Yes.
Regarding the 2 children that were with your grandparents, they're not foreign to the dog. That point is pretty weak to say that the dog is around a couple of other kids. I'm talking about people that they are not living in the house with dogs. Those kids live and have a lot of time spent with that dog. An unfamiliar kid on a bicycle would be possibly in a bad situation. That's what I say when I say small children.
Councilor Roman, did you have your hand up? Okay.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to ask a couple of questions of Nicole for clarification.
Yeah.
Do you have a fenced yard that the dogs can exercise in?
No. We live right on like the main street. Our back portion is probably like too small. And the front portion is just too much of a busy street to risk it. Like we have so much traffic there. It's like a main drag. I would never. Even to like, yeah, it's just too busy. I would never risk it.
Madam Mayor, I also want to ask the Humane Society a question.
Go ahead.
If the dogs are both muzzled, or if one dog is muzzled, one dog is wearing a gentle lead, are they then allowed to walk together? Or is it only, they cannot walk together if they're not muzzled? I just want some clarification. If both dogs are muzzled or one dog is muzzled, are they allowed to go in a pair?
We prefer not, because even if they're both muzzled, or if one dog is muzzled and the other is not, it's the fact that they don't have control of the animals, and it's too dangerous to, yeah, and it'd be dangerous for her dog as well if she like let go of the muzzled dog because she couldn't control it, and it started fighting with another dog because it went after another dog and it was muzzled, and the other dog started attacking. It wouldn't have a way to protect itself because it's wearing muzzle. So that's why we're saying one dog at a time, is because it can't control two dogs or more, two or more dogs at the same time, and it's just too dangerous for their dog and for other dogs for them to be walked together.
Thank you. Councilors, any other questions? Please use your reaction buttons so I can see.
I just have one comment as well. If I could just like.
We allow you one. Yeah, be very brief, please.
In regards to Rick's comment about the dog having foreign people around it, we're not new to the village. We've lived here for years. We've encountered you and your dog for years. Not like we're not new to the village. We're used to all the noise and whatever else. Like, I don't know what happened, as I can't really speak on the incident. I wasn't there. I do believe my parents got the collars mixed up, as Sadie's got a thicker neck, so it was enough for River to pull loose. But I do feel like I am making the necessary steps to address the issue, especially if it's a control situation. I mean, speaking on the muzzle, I can't glue the muzzle to her face. It still has a possibility of coming off. Like, none of these are 100% proof, right? I just feel like the one with the more control makes more sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councilor Bowman, did you use the reaction?
Oh, Nicole, just wanted to comment.
Yeah.
You said that you're taking necessary steps, so I'm just curious. Does that mean the dogs are enrolled in dog school?
Yeah, I've been speaking with Darcy's dog training. So she's supposed to go for behavioral assessment with them, and then basically they're going to figure out what's for triggers, or if there are any, and then like personalized training from there.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, and we will let you know about this sent. Thank you. Excuse me. Cynthia, you'll be letting us know when the presentation for Tracy Smith and Partners. Oh, the motion first. Councilor Bowman.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Curry, that information gathered as part of the dog designation field committee hearing be received, and that the committee refers the matter for further discussion and deliberation as part of closed session under agenda item 18 scheduled for later this evening, and that the committee now adjourns and council regular session resumed at 7:28 p.m.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Cynthia, you'll advise when it's you set up for Tracy Smith to present.
Yeah, we're ready.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tracy.
Hello. I am just going to, I'm not very technically, logically advanced here, so I'm going to try to share my screen. Share. Okay, so
Well done.
so everyone can see the white report that says audit final report to council?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to thank the council for inviting me to your meeting this evening. We'd like to thank Christina, David, and their team for their assistance during the audit. As your auditor, we have the responsibility to communicate with those charged with governance on an annual basis. And this white report that's on the screen, it's on page 11 of your agenda package. It contains all the required communications under Canadian auditing standards. The communication is very similar to the prior year, as the content is prescribed by the standards, and we're required to communicate the same information on an annual basis. So I'm just going to provide a very brief summary of that communication. Then I'll provide a high-level overview of the draft financial statements. Since we are virtual, I will answer questions at the end of the presentation. So just in summary, the financial statements are draft and are provided in Appendix A. The financial statements need to be approved by council before we can release them in final. I do confirm we are independent. Materiality that we used was 340. And I want to report that there were no internal control issues that arose as a result of our audit testing. The unadjusted differences are on page 8. They are not material, so we can issue a clean audit opinion. So that again was a very high, a brief summary of the communication. And I'm going to move, and I'm going to scroll here, so you may want to look away for a minute till we scroll down to the audited financial statements, which is in Appendix A. So you'll find our auditor's report. I just got to scroll here for my notes too. Just give me 1 second. Sorry. Okay, so management is responsible for preparing these financial statements, and as your auditor, it's our responsibility to give an opinion on the financial statements prepared by management. Our opinion is on page 24 and 25 of your agenda package. An audit is the highest level of assurance that we can provide as a public accounting firm, and you'll find our opinion. The financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So that means that we are providing a clean opinion, and there was no issues or concerns that came about as a result of the audit. Moving on to the actual numbers in the financial statements. On page 25 of the agenda package is the statement of financial position, or the balance sheet. It's at a point in time on December 31st, 2021. On December 31st, 2021, total assets were 29 million. The largest portion is 15.7 million in cash and 11 million in your long-term investments. The cash increased $2 million because almost $1 million was put into reserves. And there was also an increase of 1.2 million in your obligatory reserve funds. You'll find the obligatory reserve funds down in the liability section. The obligatory reserve funds are the unspent development charges, gas tax, and parkland, in lieu of parkland. So those don't get recorded as revenue until the expenses are incurred. So they show as a liability, which is different than your other reserves that show in your equity. But those obligatory reserve funds that are not spent, those do increase your cash, and they're held there until you use them to on your expenditures. The long-term investments, of $11.3 million is the municipality's investment in Energy Plus Inc. Total liabilities were 7.9 million. And again, the largest part of that was the obligatory reserve funds. Also, the current liabilities increased substantially from over the prior year. And those include the developer deposits. And since the municipality has a large, is in an expanding situation, we've got a lot more developer deposits. The financial assets less the financial liabilities is the net financial assets of $21.1 million. That's a key financial indicator. It's positive. That means you have a strong financial position. You have a positive means you have resources for the future, and it increases as your reserves increase and you repay your debt. During the year, you had no new long-term debt, and you did pay off $218,000 in principal. Brings us down to the physical assets, the tangible capital assets. Those are reported at cost, not replacement value, less amortization, which is an estimate of the use over time. And the accumulated surplus of the municipality is $55.8 million. That's both your monetary and your physical assets. That includes $33.8 million invested in capital assets, net of your external debt. It includes the $11.3 million in your Energy Plus investment, and $10.5 million in reserves, and also the current year surplus of $454,524. The next statement is the statement of operations. Sorry. Statement of operations, and is the transactions during the year. The revenues include all the external revenues for both operating and capital. The expenses include operating expenses and amortization, but it does not include actual capital purchases, nor does it include the transfers to the reserves. Both your revenues and your expenses were less than budget. The revenues were less than budget, mostly in the grants, with some capital projects not proceeding, so the matching grants were not received. And that brings us down to the annual surplus of $2.1 million. It's important to note that that is not your operating surplus. The operating surplus focuses on your short term, and that's the amount that affects your budget and your tax rates. The operating surplus for the year was $454,524. It doesn't show up on the balance sheet or the income statement, but it does show up in your notes to the financial statements. The annual surplus on this statement focuses on the long term. It's the amount of external revenues raised during the year after paying all your operating costs and covering amortization. So the annual surplus should always be positive, and it should be a fairly large positive number to allow you to pay off your principal payments, and also it has to be large enough to fund your capital asset purchases. So on the next page, we take the $2.1 million annual surplus and we adjust it for the amortization and the tangible capital assets. And that brings us down to the increase, or the increase in net financial assets that you find on your balance sheet. So from the net financial assets of $1.2 million, then you pay your principal payments and your make your transfers to reserves. So overall, the township, it is in good financial position. The operating surplus, as I said, for the year was $454,000. Very small amount of external debt of $709,000. You've got positive cash flows with almost $16 million in the bank, and your reserves are $10.5 million. A very good, strong financial position. So that includes a high-level overview of the financial statements. I'm not going to go into any too more details. I'll take any questions though that you may have.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thea, thank you. Councilors, any questions? You must have done a very, very good job, Tracy, because there are no questions. So can I have the motion, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Council Rowland, that the presentation from Tracy Smith, partner, BDO Canada LLP, regarding the 2021 audited financial statements be received with thanks. That FIN Report 17-2022 be received. The council approved the 2021 audited financial statements for the Township of North Dumfries, presented as attachment number 1, Appendix A, and the council authorized that the 2021 audited financial statements be finalized and published.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good evening. Thank you. Now we'll move into the committee of the whole, and the resolution I have, Councilor Gillespie, you do not have to read it in its entirety.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Rowland, that council adopt the following recommendation as listed in 12.1.1 A through F on the agenda as presented by the committee of whole dated May the 2nd, 2022. A, report number BLDG 02-2022, fence variance request for exterior side yard, 56 Challenger Avenue. B, report number REC 11-2022, progress update draft leisure master plan, presentation from Todd Brown, principal, Monty Brown Planning Consultants. C, report number CLK 13-2022, integrity commissioner agreement. D, report number CLK 14-2022, 2022-2026 joint municipal election compliance audit committee. And E, report number CLK 15-2022, dedicate as a public highway industrial road. F, report number FD 06-2022, fire department incident report summary, April 2022.
Thank you. Councilors, all those in favor? Any opposed? No, that's carried. I believe we have the minutes next, please. The motion, Councilor McCreary.
Moved by myself and seconded by Council Rowland. The council approved the following minutes. Regular council meeting minutes dated April the 25th, 2022. Committee of the whole meeting minutes dated May the 2nd, 2022.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we have the motion for transfer to reserves. Councilor Gillespie.
Could I ask a question? Okay.
Do you want to read the motion first, and then I'll open it to question, and we'll take vote. Okay. Thank you.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Rowland, that FIN report number 18-2022 be received, and that council approved transfers to reserves for 2022 from the 2021 year end surplus as follows. A, allocation of $300,000 to the infrastructure reserve. B, allocation of $100,000 to pay equity wages reserve. C, and allocate balance of 2021 surplus to the working fund reserve.
Thank you. If there are any questions, could you use your raise hands? Councilor Gillespie, go ahead.
Okay, whatever. I would just like to revisit the request from the hospital for funding. We do have a bit of reserve left, and I was wondering about setting up a year-to-year working or a hospital reserve fund and putting in some money, a little bit of money every year that they could draw from. I just wondered if that would be a possibility.
Could you suggest an amount, please?
Well, this year I would suggest, because we have 45,524 that we're putting into the surplus working reserve, that we put like $25,000 into the reserve.
Councilors, questions, comments? So you're asking for an amendment to the motion? A friendly amendment?
Yes, I guess so.
No one wishes to discuss? I have to be honest, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that amount of money. The leftover amount would be going into our working funds reserve, so that's to cover off if we go into debt or profits throughout the year. The pay equity is a non-issue. We couldn't take from that as well because that's needed and necessary. And as you know, with our 10-year capital plan, the infrastructure is a concern one. We also can only do it for this term of council because there'll be a new council. So it can only be for this year. Councilor Gillespie, go ahead.
But if we set up a reserve fund and not have it a specific amount every year, but just to the discretion of the council every year to put a bit of money into it, is that something that can happen, or I'm not sure how these ones are set up.
Councilor Overman, then Councilor, and then CEO McNeely.
Madam Mayor, I guess to Councilor Gillespie, I'm just concerned about setting up a reserve fund with no specific use. So I'm just wondering if this is for a project, something in North Dumfries Township, something that would benefit directly to residents of North Dumfries, and perhaps in collaboration with Langs or something like that. I'm not sure about just having a generic reserve for the hospital. I'm not really sure what the purpose would be. I'd be concerned that we don't even know what the funds are going to be used for. So we would need a bit more investigation before we decide to do that.
CEO McNeely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to respond to Councillor Gillespie. Yes, Township Council within this term of office can establish special purpose reserve accounts. We would identify the purpose of the account. So as an example, if it's for future equipment purchases associated with the hospital, or if it's a bricks and mortar campaign, you would identify what the purpose of the account is, and then what the dollar request is coming out of the 2021 surplus. In that manner, administration that has a clear understanding what the account is, what the amount is, and what its future purpose is. Because those monies may not necessarily be drawn out in 2022. It could be some future date, but then everyone has a clear understanding of why that account was set up, and obviously how much is in that account. Because the year-end statements that the treasurer prepares would then show that account with the associated amount, so that council, future, as well as members of the public understand those allocations and the purpose for it.
Yeah, I'm still not quite, I would try to lean towards maybe 5,000 a year, more than 25,000 a year. Or I'd like council to have a discussion, 5, 10, do you want to go to 25? Also, I'm concerned about putting money aside for internet revenues, but all good things, there's so much we need to do, but I don't want to, we got a heavy 10-year capital forecast as well. Councilor McCreary.
Thank you, Mayor Foxton. I'm not in favor of donating money to the hospital, and we had this discussion during the budget deliberations. We decided that we wouldn't be doing that this year, so I don't think we should be allocating any service to an unidentified hospital reserve. I think we should leave something like that to next council.
Would you like to propose a motion and then see if you can get a seconder, and then we'll move from there? So a motion would be, Councillor Gillespie, that a reserve for the hospital, Cambridge Memorial Hospital CMH, be set up in the amount of,
Well, I was just saying 25,000 this year, but doesn't have to be that much, but I know they need a new mammogram machine, so maybe we can put mammogram machine on this account. And that money's not gonna pay for a mammogram machine anyway, but they could be using that money for the mammogram.
so the motion would be that a reserve for a mammogram. Do you want to read this stage, please?
That council establish a special purpose reserve account called Cambridge Memorial Hospital Reserve Fund and transfer 25,000 from the 2021 surplus towards mammograms.
Mammogram machine.
Mammogram. Efficient. Oh,
Can I have a seconder for the motion? I do not have a seconder, so the motion is failed. So going back to the original motion, any other comments in regards to the way the funds are set? Then can I will call for the, all those in favor? The original motion. And any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you. Next, Councillor Curry, you have a motion in regards to Schmidt Park.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Roman, that Fin report number 19-2022 be received, and that council authorize the mayor and clerk, if a grant is awarded to the township, to execute an agreement with the federal government required in regards to this grant and or any other necessary documents that may arise from the awarding of funds under this government program.
C.O. McNeely, what if the grant does not come forward? Do you want to correct the motion? I have a look on your face. Go ahead, C.O. McNeely.
No, this, I apologize, Madam Mayor. This one has to deal with the July 2021 grant application that we applied for related to the Schmidt Park. I just want to clarify the context of this. This is a matter that council's previously dealt with. We did not, as part of the original resolution, going back to 2021, when we actually applied for this grant, we did not at that time have a resolution that allowed the mayor and clerk to exercise signing off of any documents. We're very concerned, given the timelines, that if the government were to award this grant, that the turnaround time between council meetings, completing the documents and the like, we may not have enough time because we're obligated to finish this project by March 2023. And we would still have to go and get bid documents and obviously award a future bid. So the intent is that if in the convening few weeks that are ahead of us, if the government were to award the grant and publicly announce it, then the mayor and the clerk would be able to execute those documents. This program is set up in the 2022 budget, but this is an administrative oversight to ensure full compliance with reporting and direction of council.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Seeing none, the motion's been read. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we have the arena concession. Councilor Gillespie.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Roloman that council receive REC report number 12-2022 and that council approve the award of contract NDRFP 03-2022 to provide concession services for the 2022-23, 2023-24, and 2024-25 North Dumfries Community Complex Arena Sessions to 13927091 Canada Inc., AONG Food Concessions, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute an agreement with 13927091 Canada Inc., OANG Food Concessions for the provision of concession services for the 2023, 2022-23, 2023-24, and 2024-25 North Dumfries Community Complex Arena seasons, subject to any minor revisions that may be required by the Township Solicitor and the Treasurer Director of Corporate Services.
All those in favor? Can we get nicer motions for Councillor Gillespie? She's done her share tonight. And next is the proposed amendments to the council schedule. Councillor Rowan.
Moved by myself and by Councillor Gillespie that report CLK 17-2022 be received and that council amend the 2022 council meeting schedule by adding a special council meeting on Monday, June 6th at 6 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Next is the draft of fireworks bylaw. Would we, anyone like any questions or comments at this time before we move forward? Councillor Rowland.
Madam Mayor, looking at the correspondence, it seems people are somewhat confused. They think that we're actually banning fireworks altogether. But in actuality, the bylaw allows it only on certain times of the year. So I think what we're trying to say is we're trying to limit the amount of fireworks. We're trying to curtail it somewhat, but it's still allowed at certain times. So I think people, some of the correspondence that they said we're banning fireworks altogether, which is not.
I see no other comments. I have one comment. I was wondering, we said 10 days, sales 10 days before. I was talking to Fruitland and they said 14 would work better for them. Is this council willing to look at a friendly amendment to change the 10 days to 14 days in advance for sale? That's a friendly amendment. It has to be okay by the mover and seconder, which would be Councilor McCreary and Councilor Ullman. Or you can leave it at the 10 days. I just thought I'd bring forward that.
What's the
So they order their stuff way in advance, right? And then truckloads of the fireworks coming into individual stores. So they would have to store it for the extra 4 days to allow for just the 10 days. That's all it is. And I'm not sure they have the storage room or what kind of room they have. But that's the only reason. Councilor Owen.
I was going to ask I guess fire chief's on here. Maybe the CEO can answer. How was the 10 days decided upon?
So Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Rowland. Chief Shantz unfortunately had a scheduling conflict and his attention was required at another meeting this evening. So in his absence, there is no magical date behind 10 days versus 14. I do wish to stress this is business days. Now, for most retailers, they are open 7 days a week. If I look at, a national service like Foodlands, but there is no, what we were trying to do was curb when they could be for sale. And it was obviously leading into two identified national holidays, being Victoria Day and July 1st. Whether it's 10 days or 14 days, in the terms of the integrity of the bylaw, is immaterial. Council wishes to provide an added measure of flexibility to vendors like a Foodland or whatever. Then all you would do is tell the resolution, you would strike out in section 3.1 of the draft bylaw, where it makes a reference to 10 business days. You would then amend it to be 14 business days.
We did not catch that it was business days. We apologize. That should be fine. And the 10 business days works. That's the 2 weeks. Thank you. So the 10 business days works because it's 2 weeks, 10 is 14 days, counting the weekends.
Oh,
Yes. Okay, Councillor McCreary, could you read the motion, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rowland that after report 7/2022 be received and that bylaw 3325-22 being a bylaw to prohibit the sale and use of fireworks, use of firecrackers, and to regulate the sale and use of fireworks be enacted, and that the proposed set fines part 1 for bylaw number 3325-22 be approved, and that staff submit the proposed set fines part 1 for the fireworks bylaw number 3325-22 to the Ministry of Attorney General for approval.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And now we have the housekeeping matter of the debts, and Councillor Gillespie, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rowland that PV report number 23-2022 be received, and that bylaw number 3327-22, being a bylaw to amend general zoning bylaw 689-83 and to establish regulatory provisions to govern decks be enacted, and that council, in accordance with the provisions of section 3417 of the Planning Act, have deemed that no further notice is required and that the changes to the bylaw since the convening of the public meeting are minor in nature.
All those in favor? Thank you. Grant application motion for community resilience, please.
I move by myself, by Councillor McCreary, that city report number 18-2022 be received, and that staff be authorized to submit a grant application in the Investing in COVID-19 Community Resilience Program in the amount of $311,000 to undertake the design, construction, and commissioning of an elevator at the Air Community Center, 7 Church Street, Air. And that the township's financial contribution for this project on the award of the grant in the amount of $62,200 plus HST be funded from the Energy Plus Reserve account. And that the 2023 capital budget identify this project with funding model of the total capital expense of $311,000 with funding divided between the township and the grant in the amount of $62,200 plus HST and $248,800 respectively. And that on the notification of the award of the grant, the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute any applicable contracts, agreements, or similar documents on behalf of the township to facilitate the completion of this project.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Councillor. Next, we have the memorandum of understanding with the Air 200, the township. Any questions before we do this? Councillor McCreary, please. Motion.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gillespie. The council received CAO report number 19-2022, and the council adopt a memorandum of understanding between Air 200 and the township to facilitate and coordinate the delivery of the bicentennial celebrations in 2024 for the former village of Air, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the memorandum of understanding between the township and Air 200, and that the terms of reference for the Air Bicentennial Anniversary Programming Committee dated March 21st, 2021, and the associated appointments bylaw to the advisory committee be rescinded, and that the treasurer be authorized to establish and transfer to the Air 200 program for 2022 an amount of $15,000, which is to be funded from the working capital reserve, and that Councillor Rowland and Councillor Ostner be appointed by council to the Air 200 initiative for the term expiring on November 14th, 2022.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I just have a question. Councillor Ostner and Councillor Rowland were in the minutes shown as chair and vice chair. Now, regional council, any regional council sitting on committees is allowed to chair it. Are you guys still the chair and vice chair? No, you're not. Okay, thank you very much. And we have correspondence from Brad Smith in regards to the tennis courts. Is there any questions or comments on this? Councilor Bowman.
Madam Mayor, I'm just curious, did we decide that the courts will be open to 10:30 daily for this? And if so, are they going to be on some sort of timer where they don't be on the entire time? I'm just curious.
I was going to turn to Karen Winters, if that's okay, CEO McNeely. Go ahead, Ms. Winters.
So yes, the lights currently are on a timer, and right now they're set to shut off at 9 o'clock. So if it is council's wish, we would extend them to the appropriate time and they would shut off at that time.
Go ahead.
So Karen, just as a follow-up, what I'm wondering is, will the timer be the sort of timer where you can, turn on the lights for 30 minutes and then it goes off, or is it just a timer that turns off at 10:30? I'm just wondering, if no one's using it for 2 hours, will there be a feature that will allow someone just to hit the button, turn the lights on for a time period, and then the lights will shut off after they leave, or will the lights just be on until 10:30?
Sorry, the lights will be on until 10:30. They wouldn't shut off if there's no court use. They would have to stay on that entire time. Otherwise, they would be more of like a motion light, and that would be a little bit more dangerous.
Any further comments, Councilor Bowman? Okay, can I have the motion, please?
I move by myself and by Councilor Gillespie that the correspondence from Brad Smith concerning extended hours of operation for Victoria tennis courts be received, and that upon the commissioning of the LED luminaire fixtures at the tennis football courts located at Schmidt Park and Victoria Park facilities, that the hours of operation be extended to 10:30 p.m. daily for the balance of the operating season.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we have correspondence. Is there anything anyone wishes to pull from correspondence? Seeing nothing, then can I have the motion, please, Councilor Gillespie? Oh, isn't that nice that you don't have to read every single one?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor McCurry, that the communications correspondence listed as items 15.1.1 to 15.1.8 be received for the purposes of information.
All those in favor? That's carried. Next, we have the motion for the minutes of the Township Advisory Committees. Councilor Bowman, please.
Move by myself, second by Councilor McCurry, that council receive the following items: Leisure and Lifestyle Advisory Committee meetings dated March 23rd, 2022, Arab Bicentennial Advisory Committee minutes dated March 21st, 2022, and the Arab Bicentennial Advisory Committee minutes dated May 9th, 2022.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And next we have regional Waterloo minutes meetings and RACs, etc. Councilor Gillespie, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor McCurry, that council received the following items: Region of Waterloo minutes dated February 23rd, 2022 and March 23rd, 2022. Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee, GRAC minutes, March 24th, 2022.
All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Is there any other business from council? Seeing none, there's any reports from council, Mayor? I have nothing. I don't see anything else. Okay. First and second reading of the bylaws, please, Councilor McCreary.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Rowland, that the following bylaws be given first and second reading. Bylaw number 3322-22, being a bylaw to dedicate parts 3 and 6 on Plan 67R 1392 as a public highway. Bylaw number 3325-22, being a bylaw to prohibit the sale and use of fireworks and to regulate the sale and use of fireworks. And I read that improperly. Bylaw number 3325-22, being a bylaw to prohibit the sale and use of firecrackers and to regulate the sale and use of fireworks. Bylaw number 3327-22, being a bylaw to further amend general zoning bylaw number 698-83 as amended.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And next we have third reading of the bylaw. Councilor Holman, please.
For myself, some of Councilor Curry, that following bylaws be taken as read a third time and finally passed. Bylaw number 3322-22, being a bylaw to dedicate parts 3 and 6 on plan 67R 1392 as a public highway. Bylaw number 3325-22, being a bylaw to prohibit the sale and use of firecrackers and to regulate the sale and use of fireworks. Bylaw number 3327-22, being a bylaw to further amend general zoning bylaw number 698-83 as amended.
All those in favor? That's carried. Can I have the motion to move into close, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gillespie. The council moved into a closed meeting session at 8:10 p.m. under the Municipal Act Section 239, 2B and C to discuss 1. Dog Designation Appeal Committee deliberation, report number CLK 16-2022, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And 2, CAO report number 17-2022, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you.
So Cynthia is going to be pausing the live stream.
Sure. Thank you, Cynthia.
So if everybody just wants to turn off their camera.
Sorry.
No, she's, yeah,
I'm opposed to stop it, so I can insert it. That's a message. I'm not starting to read it. Opposed to stop.
So I'm recording.
Yes, I have
and
to
it
look.
doesn't seem to be going back to live.
I am.
There it goes.
can you allow Council McCreary
can't see.
to do her video, please, Ashley, Cynthia? There you are, thank you. Okay, now I have a motion, Council McCreary, please, for end of close.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gillespie. The closed meeting session of council is completed at 8:52 p.m. and the open council meeting resumes.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. And next we have, coming out of close, Councilor Rowland, you have the motion, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gillespie, that council sitting as a dog designation appeal committee deny the appeal filed by Nicole Kazarowski and the dangerous dog designation be upheld by the dog designation control committee, and that the dangerous dog designation decision may be reviewed at a future dog designation control committee meeting should the dog complete the dog abuse training program levels 1 and 2 and provide written proof to the township.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Also, we're pointing out, of closed, staff have been given direction to continue discussions and analysis on the potential acquisition or disposition of municipal lands. No further information is available at this time. Now, can I have the motion for the confirmatory bylaw?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gillespie. The bylaw number 3328-22, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on May 16, 2022, read a first, second, third time, and be finally passed, signed, and sealed by the mayor and clerk.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And now we will have the adjournment, please.
Moved by myself, and seconded by Councillor Rowland, that whereas business before this regular council meeting has been completed at 8:54 p.m. And be it resolved that this meeting adjourns and meets again on June the 6th at 6 p.m. for a special council meeting.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Good night. It's a good night. You did good.